Journey to Generational Wealth Gain. So this video is going to be in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I'm going to tie it to the need to have cash on hand. I told you guys in several previous videos that I would be absolutely transparent with you about experiences that I have had, and so this is one of those transparent moments. So let me start by saying this. Domestic violence doesn't always start with someone hitting you. It can start with verbal abuse. It can start with someone, like red flags are verbal abuse, certainly consistent verbal abuse, someone backing you into a corner, someone holding you in a place when you don't want to be held, someone taking control over aspects of your life. All of these are red flags that have the potential to lead to domestic violence. And so they're things that you need to be cognizant of and that you need to be aware of and pay attention to. And I say all this because these were all red flags that happened to me that I didn't pay any attention to. It never crossed my mind that, the verbal abuse, I knew that it hurt and that it didn't make me feel good, but I never thought anything of more than, that the person was just angry and upset, and that was the reason why they were lashing out verbally, and I never anticipated that it would go any further than that. And that being said, you don't have to take verbal abuse from anyone, and you definitely shouldn't give verbal abuse to anyone either. So anyhow, I was in a committed relationship a couple decades ago, and I was very much in love with the person, despite the fact that things weren't always great. In my mind, I had a haze over logic, and they could do no wrong. And I found myself in a situation where things escalated extremely fast. So verbal abuse had somewhat been there. It hadn't been extreme, but it had somewhat been there. There had been a couple of times where they had blocked me in a corner so that I couldn't move out of it, and I didn't really pay much attention to that either. There was certainly control aspects. I was in a situation wherein we had joint accounts, and I had access to our funds via a checkbook, and as well as I could go into the bank if I needed to access cash, but I didn't have access to a debit card. And it wasn't because I didn't want a debit card, it was because I was told that I could not have a debit card, that since I had checks and since I could go into the bank, then I had more than the amount of access to finances that I needed. And like I said, we had joint accounts, so I was putting money into these accounts. It wasn't that it was his money and he was just giving me access in these forms. My money was going from my paychecks were going into these accounts as well. So anyhow, like I said, things escalated and just changed dramatically fast one particular day. And when I say they changed dramatically fast, things went from being, verbal to being backed in a corner to being physical. And in the moment that things became physical, I realized that this was a whole different game that I was not prepared for. It was a whole different situation that I was not prepared for either. And in those moments, like I said, things escalated very quickly. The person ended up taking my purse that had my wallet and my checkbook. In my wallet was like my debit card for a personal account that I had, which we had agreed that each of us would have our own separate account as well, that we could put a lesser amount of money into and do whatever with that we wanted to. And so anyhow, they ended up taking my purse that had my wallet and all access to my cash. as well as the keys to my car. So essentially, I physically didn't have anything. They subsequently were kicking me out of our home, had thrown all of my stuff out on the lawn, and in the moment, I had the ability to pick up. Back then, we had a house phone, so I picked up our house phone. I called my mother. I really wasn't sure what to do in this circumstance, and by God's grace, she had stashed $1,000 in cash in my house, and I was unaware of this. My mother came to visit, like sporadically every now and then. She did leave some items of hers behind, like toiletries, so that she wouldn't have to, travel back and forth with her toiletries. And so she had stashed it in her toiletry bag in the closet. And she told me exactly where to get it. She was like, go get this bag and take it with you. And she was like, don't leave the house without going to get this bag. And I was like, okay. So when I ended up subsequently leaving the house, I took her toiletry bag with me. I was able, and literally when I was going out of the house, I specifically remember I had also called the police. She said to call the police. So I had also called the police. I didn't call the police to tell them what was happening or that I had been physically assaulted. I called the police so that I could just have a safe getaway. And at the time, I had grabbed the bag that she told me to grab. I grabbed a box of files that we had, and I grabbed my dog. And I specifically remember the police saying, so the person was saying, she has our dog and this box of files, like, I want those back. She can't leave the house without those things. And I specifically remember the police officer saying, sir, you're holding a purse right now, and you don't look like the type of man that would have a purse. And so we're not going to take anything away from you that you're holding, and we're not going to take anything away from her that she's holding. So unfortunately, in that circumstance, the police didn't assist me in getting my purse back. They basically told him so long as he was holding on to it, that it was his property, and whatever I was holding on to was my property. So I got out of the situation at the time. Luckily, someone came to pick me up. I gathered up my trash bags of clothes off the lawn, and I departed. And so I'll say this, like I said, my mother had $1,000 stashed in cash in my house, and that $1,000 allowed me to literally immediately go get a cell phone, because he had my cell phone and I didn't have access to contact anyone. So meaning my parents. My mother knew that something was going on, but once I got off the phone with her, she had no clue as to whether or not her child was safe, whether, what the circumstance was. So I had to get access to a cell phone. So I immediately was able to go get a cell phone. I was also able to, have some money for food, to have some money to provide to the people who came to get me. And, just some cash to survive for the next several days. I will also say this. I did tell you that I had like an account that it was off to the side that was mine, that I had some money in, so I did have a little bit of money there. But the bulk of my money had gone to our joint accounts, because that was the way that we had agreed for things to be. And that was what I was doing. I trusted this person 100%. Nothing ever crossed my mind to say that, we would never be fair or equal with one another. Not even in the midst of what we were going through in the moment, did I ever think that would be the circumstance. When I was leaving, I knew that I had just gotten paid, and my paycheck had just gone into our joint account, and so I called the bank with my friend's phone while we were leaving. And I asked them to transfer the funds from our joint checking, that solely just my check that I had just received, to another checking account that I had that this person was not on. And so the bank complied with that. I provided them with all the security information that they needed, and they did do that. I didn't touch any of the rest of the money that was in there. It was our money because I had contributed to it as well. We had a couple of different joint accounts, but I didn't touch any of that because, again, in my mind, we were going to be fair about whatever the circumstance was. That was a bad decision. I made an emotional decision versus a logical decision. And so I want to let you know that based on the experiences that I had, as well as the experiences of several other people that I have talked with, the tips that I would provide to every person is have some cash on hand. You never know what the circumstance is going to be. I pray that you're never in a domestic violence circumstance. I pray that you're, never in a position where you feel like your safety is in question, or never in a position where you feel like you have to run or leave because that's the best option for you. However, I will say that quite often, and especially in domestic violence situations, people don't leave because they don't have the finances to do so. And that would be the worst case scenario for you to stay because you don't have the money. Stash money off to the side as you need to. And I hate to say stash because it makes it sound as though, you're doing something underhanded, and you're really not. Like, I always tell people to have an emergency fund, and I don't even consider this to be part of your technical emergency fund. Like, you should just have some cash on hand. Like, I guess this is your just in case money. I remember many, many, many years ago that grandmothers used to say, never tell your left hand what your right hand is doing. And during the time in which I heard those statements, it was unfortunately as a result of something like this. Grandma had a couple extra $100 stashed, so if she needed to go away for the weekend, or if she needed to go away for a week or two because grandpa was on one, then she had the money to do so. But unfortunately, eventually she would go back and the cycle would start over again. And I'm not saying that this was my grandparents' situation, because praise God, it was not my grandparents' situation. I'm just using grandma and grandpa as a metaphorical example. So anyhow, always have some cash stuck off to the side. Whether it's in an account, whether it's not in an account, and you just have it stashed off somewhere. If you are presently in a situation, make sure that you're pulling, $5 here, $10 there, $1 here, $1 there, whatever you have to do, so that you have some extra money on the side. Never, never, never allow yourself to be in a position where you can't leave because you can't afford to leave. You shouldn't have to stay in a situation where your physical health, your mental health are in jeopardy because of your finances. I would also say, if you're in a situation like this, and this, also pertains to, people who are married and going through divorce, make logical decisions. Don't allow your emotions to put you in a bad financial situation. Make logical decisions over making emotional decisions, especially when it comes to your finances. Your emotions should be completely out of the door when it comes to your money, and you should solely go based on logic. If I knew then what I know now, then when I had my paycheck withdrawn from that account, I would have basically had half the account withdrawn. I would have, and then after having half the account withdrawn, I would have calculated, what truly is mine versus what's not mine, if I didn't feel that half of it was warranted to be mine, and then I would have, given the rest of it back. And the reason that I say this is because, like I said, I had my check removed, and within a day, when I went back to look at the account, it had been cleared out completely. 100% of the money from all of our accounts had been removed. And so I no longer had access. All I had was the $1,000 my mother had stashed in our house, and then what I had from my paycheck from those last 2 weeks, and then what I had in my own individual accounts. That was it. And when I tell you that a substantial amount of money was gone, a substantial amount of money was gone, and I never saw that money ever again. So this has been my experience, and I know that everybody's experience is going to be different. But I want to say that if you take anything away from this, the takeaway that I would want for you to have is to have some cash on hand. Make sure you always have some cash on hand. Call it run money, call it whatever you may want to call it. It's just something that if you need to, don't even call it run money. If you have a circumstance where you need to get away. And like I said, I pray that you never need it for the circumstance in which you might save it for. That you never need it for a position in which you feel like you're not safe. I pray to God that that's never your circumstance, but I want you to have it just in case you need it. If this information has been helpful, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you are currently in a situation where things are not safe for you, don't like this video. As a matter of fact, clear this video out of your browser history. Make sure you clear this video out of your YouTube history, because I don't want to put you in a situation where it makes your situation worse for you. I will say that there are resources to help you. There are also financial resources that can help you, and I will have a couple of links posted, as well as some links posted in the description below. If you like my shirt, it can be purchased in my Etsy store, which will be linked in the description down below. And I just want to say that I hope and pray that you are in a safe relationship, that you are in a safe situation, and that the information that I've provided today is just a helpful tip that you take note of and that you'll absolutely never ever need. Have a great day, Journey to Generational Wealth Gang. Bye.